Our two speakers tonight are Matthew Kennedy and Father Brendan Lane. Matthew Kennedy has been playing in the AFL since 2016 when he was drafted by the GWS Giants up in Sydney. He then transferred to Carlton a year later. He originally played for Colling Gully up in New South Wales, and I couldn't help noticing Colling Gully. It's almost Collingwood. He almost played for the mighty Magpies, but not quite. He's played 78 games in the AFL, and he's an up-and-coming star. He recently got engaged into one of Melbourne's great Catholic families, the Canavans. So can everyone give him a round of applause? Unfortunately, his father-in-law is going to be John Canavan, and well, he's going to cop it a lot over the next few years, I think. Now, I have to thank John. It's thanks to John Canavan that this event's happening here tonight. It's all his initiative. He even helped us to find this venue at short notice. As you all know, the Notting Hill Hotel, our regular venue, is undergoing renovation, and thanks to John knowing the owner here, the Matthew Flinders Hotel's kindly opened their doors to us, and we're very grateful to them. Matthew's going to be up on stage here with Father Brendan Lane, who is one of Melbourne's great priests. He used to be the rector of the Melbourne Seminary for some years, and he's now the parish priest of St Mary's, Dandenong. Father Brendan and Matthew are good friends, and so Father Brendan's going to interview Matthew for our talk here tonight. And Matthew's going to tell us a bit about his faith, his family, and AFL football. Can we have a round of applause for Father Brendan and Matthew?
We're at the Matthew Flinders Hotel. He was a great navigator, and we're navigating this together. We don't know where we're going, and he went around Australia, so we're going to go around your life tonight. I've got a couple of questions first. Do you love God?
Yes. I hope so, yeah.
Do you love beer?
Yeah.
You do? I thought it's ponder this God and beer while we put them together, but anyway, there's a lot to think about there. So, just to show that he's in good company, if you love God, put up your hand. Right, if you love a beer, put up your hand. That's how you've got plenty around here with me. Just to say how I qualified for this job. I feel like Parkinson, you know, that guy in the interview. But Matt, I found him in. So I thought we'd start with your family. Can you tell us a bit about your family?
Yeah, thanks, Father Lane. For those that don't know, I was born and raised in Wagga Wagga, New South Wales. It's about 4.5 hours north of here. Like I guess most of us here tonight, I was born and raised in a Catholic family. So I was one of 5. I've got 3 older brothers and an older sister. So I'm the baby and very much missed by Mum. The only one to leave Wagga as well. So I get spoiled every time I go back home, which is always nice. Other than that, I was very blessed and lucky and privileged growing up. Had everything provided for us growing up, house over my head, a meal, very strong family with very good values. I was quite lucky, all my brothers were very sporty, so I'm probably blessed they were a bit older and always had to fight to try and stay on their level, so they probably made me better than what I probably was meant to be. But I've got some great memories of growing up and playing in the backyard with my brothers, and even my sister. She was probably the toughest out of a lot of us. She used to belt us all up. I've got great memories of my childhood and growing up, and I suppose in recent times it's been quite hard moving away at the age of 18. Moved to Sydney, as John said before. Got drafted to a Sydney club, and from there, I suppose, my journey through faith and life probably had its ups and downs. Being 18, and probably my father was a big support for me, and with my values and my faith, leaving him and family, I found it tough, but I'm very blessed. I've probably found the Canavan family, they've helped me out massively to the road of getting back onto my faith. Not that I've never left it, but I certainly did struggle there for a long time. So I found moving away from family very hard to keep the faith. But yeah, I've been blessed really. I think a lot of good and bad things have happened, but I've learned along the way, and I'm still learning. Being 26 and recently engaged, I'm getting bossed around, so I'm getting used to saying yes, but new challenge I'm looking forward to.
Thanks, Matt. Can you tell us a bit about your father and his influence on you?
Yeah, I suppose if I reflect on my life so far, my dad has definitely played a big role to the person I am, both as a football player and as a man. I think as a footy player, it was always very tough on me. It was never enough. Mum always tells a story. I think I was a junior then. I went okay in a game, and I came off all happy, and Dad just listed about all the bad things I did during the game. So he was tough, but he was also fair, and I guess tried to always keep me humbled. And as a man of faith, he really led the way. By the way, now that you're growing up and you see the way he treated my mother with such love, care, and respect, the way he loved his kids. Probably things you don't really notice growing up, and you can sort of take it for advantage a little bit, I think, but as you get older and wiser, you really do see how much he loved us, and also directed us through life. He wasn't always in our ear telling us what to do. He would always give us guidance along the way, but he more or less really showed the way by his actions. So something I really respect about him and admire him still to this day. So, yeah.
And does he still coach you now?
Yes, he still coaches me now. Every time I'll get a few phone calls telling me all the bad things I've done. I should have hit that kick or taken the mark. But I've been surprised the older I've got, he's probably been more lenient on me, and I'm the one that's more harsher. I'm not sure if I'm expecting the bad things, so I've been into him. But no, I found he's pretty good. Like, if I play a bad game, he'll still tell me, don't worry. But if I went all right, he's learnt how to give positive feedback now, which is good. So I've enjoyed that in the older years. But no, he's fair, I think. But no, he's always great, and we always have a laugh about him because, as a family, because you can never be perfect or do anything good enough for him.
And I believe your family also has a farm, and you like to go there. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I probably left that bit out. Growing up, yeah, my dad was a farmer with his brother, so they own and share farm about 3,500 acres. As a kid, I don't think I really knew I had a passion or liked farming that much. It's just you always went out to the farm with Dad and sat on the tractor or the header or machine or in the sheep yards following him around. Just wanted to be like Dad, I guess. But it probably wasn't until I left, or once I got drafted and went to Sydney and now come to Melbourne, I realised I've got actually a bit of a passion and love for farming. I love to get home, just to see family and be around them and involved with Mum, Dad and my brothers, who I'm still extremely close with. But I do love just getting out in nature, sitting on the tractor or the header and just sort of daydreaming a bit, to be honest. The sheep work, not so much. That gets me a bit fired up. Funny story about you. I knew Mary Ann, my recent fiancée. really loved me, because if anyone has ever been in a sheep shed shearing, it's the worst day, the worst experience of your life. And so the first time I took her back home, introduced her to family, the next day I put her in the sheep yards to do sheep work, while we were shearing, and I left because I hate her. So I thought, if I come back at the end of the day and she's still there and still wants to talk to me, she's a keeper. So I went back there, she was still there, and that's how I knew she loved me.
And you hope to have a team of your own one day too. Father and son will, you might have one for Carlton too. Now, tell us a bit more about your journey of faith. It's been quite a journey in your life. And you've got to remember he's got an uncle who's a bishop. You might tell us about that.
Yeah, I'll start off by my uncle, who's bishop. So as a family, that was a really proud moment. He was Bishop of Armidale. I can't remember his ordination, what year it was, which is probably pretty bad, but it was well over 10, 15 years ago now. And as a family, it was just awesome to be there and support him. And probably back then I didn't realise how important faith was to us as a family, or myself as an individual, but he's someone we all highly look up to, and I know definitely in times of struggle, he's always just a phone call away. And he's a very wise man, like my father is, and he's got some great advice, so he's always good. A good support network to lean on in times of struggle, which I believe we all do go through at some stage in our lives. But for me and my faith journey, as I mentioned before, born into a Catholic family, I think I sort of just took it for granted. It is what it is. And going to a primary school, everyone was a Catholic. You didn't know any better. It wasn't probably till I hit high school when I started hanging around friends that weren't practicing and had different values and morals, and you sort of almost a little bit confused. So that's where I think Dad was really good at being a real good support for me and sort of guide me through those times during high school of what was coming. But when he wasn't there, when I was in Sydney, I found it really hard, because I think we all craved to fit in as well. And when I got drafted, I think that's when I really started to struggle, because I just wanted to fit in, and literally everyone in the footy club had probably no faith, and that's where I really struggled in terms of my morals, I guess. And I believe you are who you hang around, and it can be hard, because I'm going to mass every week, and there was no young people around. There was no offence, it was just sort of very much elderly people, and I found it hard to sort of have a sort of connection with faith. I felt like I was just sort of ticking a box going to mass. So that was a very tough time for me, where I wasn't invested. And from there, I think I just slowly drifted away. And I think that's carried over when I got traded here to Carlton in Melbourne. I very much struggled just to find that support network. So I don't think you can do it all on your own. We go through times of struggle, and you need people to reach out to, and I just didn't have that. And as I mentioned before, family was always that support network that in times of struggle I really need. I had back home, and since being drafted, I probably never found that until I met the Kennevians. So I'm very blessed and lucky for them. They've definitely helped me and shaped me into the person I am now. To get back and being good and having God as a real priority in my life. Yeah, I suppose I'm very lucky for my father, as I mentioned before. The one bit, probably the best bit of advice he ever gave to me was, in times of struggle, and you probably will struggle throughout your journey of faith and football, you'll go through a lot of good and a lot of bad, but he said, if you can always just go to mass at the weekend, you'll never fall too far away from faith. And he said that to me as I was packing my bags and flying out to Sydney. So I'm lucky he said that, because if it wasn't for that bit of advice, maybe I would have never met the Kennevian family, and maybe I would have lost my faith. So that's one bit of advice I still hold very close to me this day. So even finding out as I get older, I go through times where I'm good and I feel very close and strong with God, and then times where I probably struggle a little bit more. But if I always go to Mass every week, I'm very confident I won't lose my faith.
Now, football clubs are not like convents or monasteries. What do the other players think of you when they know you've got a faith? You went to Adam Saad, the Muslim fellow. How do they react to that?
I suppose it's all quite positive now, but I think that comes from having a really good foundation with your friends and building that trust and support. I think if I went in just all guns blazing and I was judging them and telling them I was Catholic and you're doing this wrong and I don't believe you should do that, it sort of drives them to almost resent you even more. So I think it's really important and something that, as again, my father probably advised me to do, is you never judge anyone. Everyone's different, they've had a different upbringing and background to you, so even if you don't believe or think what they're doing is right, it's not up for you to decide or judge. It's just important you treat everyone as a person and be good and nice to them. And I think off the back of that, I've made a lot of good friendships and very strong connections with people that probably aren't Catholic or even thought about the faith. And now I actually really enjoy having those conversations about my faith and about my journey. And I find people actually are the ones asking me more so than me shoving it down their throat. So it is weird and it has been hard, but I suppose when I was young I sort of feared and probably hid the fact that I was Catholic. But I think that's all a part of growing up and maturing. The older I've got, the more I haven't worried so much about other people and their opinions of me. I've just tried to be good and nice and humbled, and I think if you do that and have good connections, it's a really good foundation to allow people to come to you and ask you questions about your faith. And
thanks, Matt. That's terrific. Now, you spend a lot of time going through a lot of pain together with these fellows. It must give you a great bond with them. Tell us about how close you are and the bond you've got to have. And also, football is such a pressure game now. You've got to know where they are without even thinking, don't you? You've got to handball to them and all this sort of stuff. What does that, going through all that together, day in and day out with these people, tell us about the bond you have with them and the understanding you have with them.
Yeah, obviously you're probably closer to certain people. For example, the midfielders are more closer with each other than the forwards and the backs, because we do a lot of individual work as a midfield group to nail our role. So they're probably the closest group of guys that I'm, or the tightest I'm with at the club. You obviously have your own different friendship groups and whatnot, but yeah, you spend a lot of time together every day. You get to know them pretty well, that's for sure. But I suppose there's so many coaches and almost overcoached in a way. You know where everyone's going to stand at every minute of the game, just about. So, look, I've really learned to enjoy those little bits of training. I once probably ended up hating all the meetings, all the training, and just being at the club. But I suppose I've got a fair bit of gratitude now, because it was almost taken away from me. Probably a couple of years ago there, I almost got delisted. So I really try not to complain too much. I just look at it every day as an opportunity I almost lost. So the more time I spend at the club is almost a bonus for me. I'm sure everyone's different as a player. Being around the club and other people too much is kind of draining, but I think I'm one that gets a lot of energy of being around other people and the coaches and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm learning to enjoy that side of things a lot more, but there is definitely times there you get sick of your teammates or coach, but it's all good. Now
obviously you had a great struggle to succeed in football, what were the changes that you made that has brought you success?
It's a really good question. It's a bit of a tough one to answer. I think I was really struggling there because I probably lost a lot of my purpose in life, and I put so much pressure on myself. I think one person that was great to me, or probably a couple, was one of my coaches in Luke Power and the club psychologist, Tara. As I mentioned before, I almost got delisted. I was struggling with form and the pressure of it all. I almost thought if I didn't fail in football, I was a failure as a person. And I mentioned it before again, I really hated training and hated the pressure of game day, and I genuinely wanted to quit. Not quit, I wanted to get delisted because I was just that sick of it. I wanted to go back home. But I had a really good catch up with the club psychologist, and I had about 5 or 6 sessions with her, and she sort of knew that, one, I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, but faith was something big for me and was something that I lost. So we ended up doing this piece where I found my purpose, and my purpose was faith, family and footy. So if my faith in God was good and strong, I was happy, and if I was close with my family, and I'm excited to be starting my own family soon with my fiancée. If that's rock solid, then footy is really just a bonus. And if I get delisted tomorrow, or if I have a really bad injury, which you never know in footy, it can turn on you like that, or form like. As long as I've got those two things sorted, then I'm happy in life. And footy's just a gift, really. I'm just blessed to be able to do it every day, but the most important things to me is faith and family. And as I said, I go through struggles with both. Like sometimes I feel like I'm really good and close with God, and then I'll be struggling. Same with family. I'll be one minute she's happy, one next she's not. So it's like that. So. But it really is, like, footy, it doesn't really worry me too much, as it did once upon a time. If I've got my faith and my family, and I really know I am blessed and lucky to be in this position, even to come here tonight, and thank you all for coming. And it really is humbling to know you all wanted to come and sit and listen to me talk, because it really doesn't feel, I don't feel special. I don't feel like I should really have the privilege to come and talk to you here tonight, and this is a little bonus what footy can do. And if I can spread the message of faith and family and the love of God and beer, then what a bonus. But yeah, as I said, I found my purpose in life, and whatever pressures that I face with footy, it really doesn't matter, because my purpose is stronger than the pressure I face.
Well, I noticed you're a pretty ordinary kid, Matt, but tell us about what gifts you got as a footballer. What are the best gifts you got?
John, do you want to answer this one? He always pumps me up, tells me how good I am, and to others as well. Every goal I kick, he's filmed and sent it to me, so I always make sure after a game if I've kicked a goal, I go straight to the phone and John's there commentating. Karen, is that on a shot? But yeah, that's it is a good question, because I think in football you can be so worried about what you're bad at and what you need to grow and get better at, you forget about your strengths as a player, and that's something as a whole playing group we've actually sort of worked on in the last probably 2 years, especially since Vossi's come in and taken over. There's always going to be some area to improve on, but what are your real strengths, and let's go to work on that, because that's what's going to make you the best player for this club, or best player going forward. So I think for me it's probably more that inside contested stuff, so I try and do a lot of work at that, and I'm pretty fortunate. I've got one of the best players in the league in Patrick Cripps, so he's hard to beat. So it's really enjoyable getting to work with him, George Hewitt, Sam Walsh, Paddy Dow, yeah, there's a number of guys at Kerno, so I try and work on that and probably kicking and contested marking, but I find it's a bit harder to do those two things.
I mean, you've got wonderful hands. I thought you might mention that. Because they're the envy of every pickpocket in Melbourne. They're so quick. Okay? Tell us about your hands and to get that ball out so quickly. It has to be instinctive, no? All this.
Well, thanks, by the way. I didn't know they were that good, but there they are. No, we're very lucky. We've got Greg Williams at the football club. Anyone that doesn't know Greg Williams, he's a two-time Brownlow medalist and a premiership player for Carlton. I remember actually sitting down and having a coffee in the cafe with him, and he basically said, I play twos because I train like a twos player. So it was pretty honest feedback, but he just said the intensity I trained at wasn't at the level an AFL player should be trained at. So I've done a bit of work with him, and he's been really good. And there's a bit of a touch group before we actually train now. So there's about 6 or 7 of us that before train will go do a touch with him, and he's always on your case about being quick and clean, because the best players in the comp are clean, because clean is quick. So I do a lot of work with him, I guess, and it's one of those ones. You can't just expect her to go out there game day and for it to happen. Like, there's hours upon hours and hours and hours of just little handball and touch activities you can do just for that one handball. So no, it's probably he's a big reason, and I probably should have mentioned him before about my footy sort of taking that next step, because all the hours I do with him.
Now, before we go on, I need to know who are Carlton supporters here. Put up your hand. Right, that's good. You're in good company here today. Are there any Collingwood supporters here? Or kick them under the table. Right. Now, tell us a bit about Paddy Cripps. He's on the Brownlow medal. What sort of a fella is he?
Yeah, he's a ripper. Obviously a very humble bloke, comes from a country family. But if you're around the footy club and watched him, how hard he puts in the work, it's no surprise he has the success he does on field. And as a leader, he does so much for the footy club and the players. He's just so invested in others as well as his own self, which I think is an incredible trait to have, to be able to drive yourself at the level he does and others. For 95% of AFL players, the work he puts in would burn anyone out. So I think it's a credit to himself how hard he works and the hours he puts into not only the touch he does and how hard he trains, but his gym performance. Like, he'll go see his strength coach and he'll want to change something because he thinks he can get better at this or that. He's always seen the dietitian to check in on his diet, all his skin folds. He's always wanted to learn about recovery and what different recovery techniques he can do to get better. So, and whatever he learns, he then tries to dish off to the younger playing group. So his will and desire to want to get better is a real credit to him. Even he literally just won a Brownlow medal, and he's already asking Andrew Russell, our head of high performance, different ways he can train and get better. And he's looking into like the different sleeping techniques and meditation, and it's a real credit to him. And I think as a player watching, it's hard not to want to invest in your own career as well, because you see your leader doing that, it's infectious and it makes you want to jump on. So I think he's a great man to be leading the Carlton Football Club going forward, and hopefully have some success in the near future.
We've been hoping for 25 years, so that time. Now, there's a lot of ladies here tonight. Tell us about, not where you live, but how you live, who you live with, what you eat, the day-to-day stuff, who cooks it and all those things. I'm sure they'll all volunteer to cook for you, but yeah, let us know about your life and your daily life. How's it go?
Yep, so I'm living with Sam Walsh and Paddy Gow. I've been living for them for the past 2 years. We were in Richmond, now we've just moved into Fitzroy North, house in Fitzroy North that Sam Walsh has just bought, so that's nice and close to the club, so I'm enjoying that change. I suppose early days I was probably the main chef, but I was very plain and simple. It was just pasta or risotto or steak and 3 veg. So I invited Mez to come around and cook for us a few times, and she got the sack pretty early. Early days she used to bake a lot of banana muffins, and now as she's got comfortable we never see the banana muffins, so it's disappointing. But the day-to-day life, it's great living with those boys because I did once upon a time live with a couple of schoolmates, and it was hard to live a good lifestyle in terms of my diet especially. Just the foods they would eat, it probably wasn't up to an AFL or elite standard, so living with those boys definitely helps. And there's different times of the year where, like pre-season for example, right now, you probably you definitely do need to eat a lot more carbs and protein because you're training so hard and the loads are so high. If you didn't eat enough, you lose so much weight and you wouldn't have energy to actually perform at that high level training 3 times a week. So, and then in season you need to be a bit more careful what you're eating because, especially me, I love my food and I find it hard to maintain a weight if I keep eating, or if I had a similar diet to my pre-season diet, I'll put on a lot of weight very quickly. So I find diet's probably a really big one. I know I definitely need to watch, and also my gym program, because if I lift too many weights, I'll get too big and heavy and slow. So I do a lot of plyometric gym work, so for those that don't know, it's like, for example, it's a bit more explosive work. Instead of lifting heavy weights, I'll do like hurdle jumps or something like that. And then, yeah, in season, there's a lot of meetings and stuff that bore me a little bit, so I try and stay switched on during them, but that's all a part of the role, I guess. So anyone that wants to know what an AFL lifestyle is, it's eat, train, meeting, sleep, recovery. They're probably the 5 most important things, and it's just that on repeat.
I've seen you described as a hard man. Where does that toughness come from? And how do you handle that when you're targeted? I noticed the Sydney Swans targeted you one match there. They belted you at every opportunity. How do you handle that sort of thing, and where did you get that toughness from?
I'm not sure if I'm that tough. I think you're just doing John here and pumping me up, but I think just to play at that level, anyone needs to be quite tough and physical. That Sydney Swans game you mentioned before, I was just unfortunate to be in the wrong spot at the wrong time. But I suppose it's something growing up with 3 older brothers and as the sister who bashed me up the most probably, it was just sort of engraved into me as a kid. So I've always enjoyed that natural competitive side, has always been a part of my lifestyle, and we were always playing games as kids there was a score, so it would start off nice and friendly, and by the end of it there was blood and tears, and I would always lose. I would always go crying to mum. So I think that sort of just has naturally come out of me, or in my game, probably based on my background a little bit. And I think something that Vossi's instilled into the playing group is we want to be a tough physical group. So, and if he says it, you sort of have to go. Anyone that knows Michael Vossi, he was a fast player and he was very tough, and he would never ask you to do anything he wouldn't do. So if he tells you to do it, you do it.
And the Carlton supporters all want to know how Carlton are going to go this year. I know you've got to be careful what you say, but what can you say about that?
Yeah, I won't say too much because every year I get excited myself and we end up not making finals, so I'll keep a bit of a lid on it. But I will say one thing, Vossi's been very big at we sort of said our best is good enough to beat any side on any day, but it's more so about our consistency. So it's not raising the ceiling, it's about raising the floor. So everything we've done this year has been been built around consistency. So every training session we've had, it's been physical, tough. It's been a bit of a grind mentally and physically, and it's about being consistent with those behaviours on field, and probably more importantly off field. The way you live your life, what you put in your mouth, how you recover, sleep, all those little things, and being able to compound them over time. So of a week it might not make that much of a difference, but come the end of the year, come finals, hopefully, you're doing those right things again and again and again. You end up stacking them and you put yourself in a lot better position to be able to perform at your best at the right time of the year.
There's some players who have special gifts from God. I think of Eddie Betts, things he does you can't train for. Some of those who take speckies, spectacular marks. What's it like being up close with these guys and watching them? And I find it just so uplifting when you see, it's so thrilling when you see those sort of things.
You see it as uplifting, I see it as jealousy, because I can't do those things. It's pretty awesome. One player I will say is Charlie Kerner this year has been, just the way he's been training, it's actually crazy. Like, there'll be 3 blokes and he'll jump over a wall and mark the ball. And it is God-given, natural, freakish abilities probably. Like, to be able to be that explosive and that fit, like he can run up and down the ground all day. It's crazy. It's one of those ones, sometimes I actually got to sort of pinch myself. I feel like I'm a little kid at times, because growing up I just wanted to be an AFL player, and then I'm running around with Patrick Cripps, a Charlie, Harry McKay, a Sam Walsh, and you really got to sort of just take a seat and just appreciate it all, because to be there live and watch it and train with some of these blokes every day, it's awesome. And sometimes I got to have a bit more gratitude of the position I am, because you can sort of just take it for granted. And I think a player like Charlie, if you want to see a natural freak, he's probably the most freakish player I've seen at any club. Not that I've been to many, I've been to 2, but I think he's probably one of the most impressive blokes anyone's ever seen on a footy field.
I've got the funeral of 2 young people this week. Both could be suicides, I'm not sure, but 22 and 23. What do you say to young people that gives them direction and purpose and keeping off drugs and all that sort of stuff? It's all out there, all the addictions. What do you say to them that give them reason to live?
Yeah, it's quite a tough one. We just had community camp visits, and we recently went to a school in Albury. It was called an indie school, and it's for people who, or high schoolers that don't fit in. They've had rough upbringings in childhoods, and I think that's one of the most important things. Is it's hard. You should never judge them, because you don't know what their upbringing's been like. But when I was sort of speaking, I sort of spoke about my faith and family, like a bit of my purpose. So I would encourage them very much to try and surround themselves by good people first and foremost, and that's probably hard to do when you're in that sort of position mentally, to know who to hang around. But there is people out there that do love and care for them, and especially, well, God loves them, that's for sure. But it's hard when you're in that mind frame to see any positivity. So wherever you can, try and instill positivity into their life and let them know they are loved and cared for. And I think try and help them in any way you can, and especially try and lead them or help them to find a real purpose to live, because without a purpose to live, it would be quite hard for some of these young people. And I know me, I'm very blessed and I'm lucky I've been brought up the way I was, but when I didn't have that purpose in faith and family, I wouldn't say I was mentally or had mental illness or anything that severe, but I was quite unhappy and and lost, and I'm sure most of us have already gone through it or experienced something similar, and when you're in that position it is hard to get out of it, but I think prayer, also faith and praying is probably the number one thing you could do to really help yourself get out of that hole.
Now, John, where do we go from here? Come over here, John, and let us know what happens now.
Taking up the deal.
Thanks very much, Father Lane.
Yeah.
Normally at this stage of God and Beer, we open the floor up to questions for anyone who's got a question for our speaker. I'll tell you what though, Father Lane, he mentioned he felt like Michael Parkinson at the start of the night. Do you reckon he looks a bit like him too? And I'll tell you what, I wonder if his alter ego is Michael Parkinson, because he did such an amazing job interviewing Matthew. Yeah, if a couple of people have a burning question, I think we've got a little bit of time, so if you can speak loudly.
When's the wedding?
I'm thinking about ending it.
I know it's 11th of November, so very excited for that.
Piece of paper, remember.
Matthew is a gun footballer, absolute champion sentiment. This is a hypothetical question for Matthew, because Father Brendan left his mobile phone on the table. I did see the message from heaven that Jesus has changed his allegiance this year to Carlton. Matthew, in the next little recruiting episode, I did say on the phone that God is this year going to play for Carlton. Now here's the hypothetical. It's the grand final, the MCG. Adam Sard, your mate, has just passed the ball to you. You're in the centre. Half a minute to go. Your mate Charlie Curnow, who you said is a champion, is about 30 metres out on the left. And Harry Mackay, that big tall bloke with the left foot, is 30 metres out on the right. But the new recruit, God, is at full forward. Who do you pass the ball to?
Well, I want to get into heaven, and I've done a lot of bad fit things, so I'm giving it to the big man. No, straight to full forward. I'm not getting that.
I'm the new father-in-law. It's cost me a fortune, this guy. Now, Matt, there's a lot of young people here, which is so great for all the young kids to come on. Let's give a big hand for the young boys who come along. It's fantastic. Now, there's a gentleman in the room here tonight who's somewhere between 85 and death, and that's Billy Mack. He's been a fantastic Carlton supporter all his life, Billy, so we're going to hand it over to you, Billy boy. So what's the question you want to ask him?
I want to know whether number 7 will win the Brownlow medal.
You want to
Well, number 7, and he's number 7, of course.
Everyone in this room better start praying if that happens, Bill. So we're going to need a lot of prayers. But I'll give it a go.
Now, would his lovely fiancée, my daughter Marianne, like to ask me a question? Okay. Any other questions?
Great support.
Stand up there. Would you like to stand up, or would you like to come to the front and speak to the mic?
Yeah, just two questions. Can't quite see how tall or short you are to start with.
Next big.
And the other thing is, did you get much rancour from your teammates that come to speak with God and Beer tonight?
John, I'm going to need the mic myself.
Senior's mother.
Loves attention, so he hates it when someone else has got it. He's trying to get it all back. As I sort of mentioned before, I think I built a really good relationship with players and build that foundation, and they're actually really respectful of my faith and can really appreciate my morals and values, I guess, and I'm pretty lucky in terms of now anyway. I probably didn't sort of show it when I was younger, so I wouldn't really know, but everyone's been really quite respectful about my faith and probably even my journey, I suppose, in my faith, because I've had to get up in front of the group and tell my story. Sort of similar to how I started the night, and they're all very respectful, but it's something I don't go around promoting and forcing in everyone's throat. Not that I'm embarrassed about it or anything, I just let people come to me. And the only two people that I think knew about tonight was Sam Walsh and Paddy Dow. And as I said, they know just about everything about me and my life, and they're always super respectful. And my height is 6'2", I think, if you still care.
What's your strategy if the opposition know about your faith and they start sledging you up at the footy field? How would you approach that?
So the question was if opposition sledged me about my faith. Well, one, it's never happened, so I don't really know. I could honestly, I'm pretty competitive out on the field, so I'd probably want to punch him. But I don't really know. I think I am pretty thick-skinned, I guess. It wouldn't honestly worry me too much, especially if we were winning. It honestly wouldn't worry me. But if we were getting smashed, I would probably throw a punch. It's not the right thing to do. I know Jesus wouldn't like that. But yeah, it depends how I'm feeling in that moment. But I honestly wouldn't know. Yeah.
Just a quick one. So you said, you missed your family and everything else, and that's one of the reasons why you came back to Victoria. Was Sauce part of that whole equation? Because he was an assistant coach at the Giants and he was recruiting, obviously, for the Blues when he came down at Princess Park. Was that one of the factors that made you come down? Or
A lot of... It's gone flat. Oh, there we go, sorry. A lot of people think I was from Victoria. I didn't come back to Victoria because of family. It sort of just happened. I always actually wanted to be a one club player. But at the time, GWS, we going through a really good stage in their football journey, and they're looking like they were going to win a premiership in the next couple of years, and they signed basically the whole playing group or everyone they wanted to stay, and literally it sort of came to the point where they didn't really have any room for me, so I was kind of half pushed out the door. So from there it was about where I wanted to go, and Carlton were really keen, Essendon and Brisbane. I think Brisbane were the most keen and almost went there, but it was probably like that family tie, like you sort of mentioned before, that's probably the main reason I didn't go to Brisbane, because it was so far away from family, whereas Melbourne, family often come to Melbourne and watch a game of footy, and if they do come to Melbourne for the weekend, there's a lot of sport, there's a lot of different footy games, so they can watch 2 or 3 games. Dad can still come and watch the Hawks play. So that was probably the main reason I chose Melbourne, and then from there caught up with a couple of different clubs, and Silvani was there, and I really liked the meeting I had at the time with Brendan Bolt and Steve Silvani, so they appealed me to the most, and it was a really young group building from the ground up. That was really appealing to me. Little did I know at the time we were going to be building for this long, for 6 years, a little longer than we would have liked, but in saying that, I've learned a lot of good lessons along the way, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Matthew, thanks so much for coming along tonight. I really appreciated hearing your story and hearing some of the challenges that you've overcome and how faith and family have helped you to do that. I really took away from it that some of God's great tools that He uses to help people and to evangelise. Obviously, the faith. He reaches people through faith, but also through family. Family is an amazing tool of evangelisation. When you see a beautiful family, it makes you want to have that, want to be part of that. And obviously, that's part of your story. And also meeting a good Catholic woman. God does a lot through that as well. So thanks for coming and sharing your story with us. We really appreciate it. Can everyone give Matthew and Father Wayne a hand?
Thank you, John. Well, a good man over there organised a little while ago to get this football signed by the Carlton, the jumper signed by the Carlton Footy Club. It's got a photo of Kerno and of course Matthew himself. Oh, Patrick Cripps, sorry. Yeah. And so we're going to lock you up. So can you come over here? And I want to get someone to help you. Now, this man was in real estate for years. He was a legend. Billy, can you come up here and hold the picture with us, Billy? He's going to be the spotter. Now, there's a lot of Carlton supporters out there. You hold up there with... There you go. No, hold it up here. You right there, Billy? All right. So it's all signed by the Carlton footy team. It's all fully mounted. It's got the Carlton Football Club there, the team there, and Matt's going to sign at the back personally too. You can get a photo with him. And after this is done, come up here, bring your jumpers. If you want some signatures or something signed, come up, meet Matt, get a photo, and there it is. So, all right, how many Carlton supporters have we got in the room now? What can I see to start with this beautifully mounted Carlton football jumper? What can I see to start me off? What about? Go on, start me where you will. What about $100? $100 right there at the back there. At 100, 125, if you like, 125, 120, 150 on there now. At $150 I'm bid. At 150 now, 175 you like now. Father Michael Gallagher, big collection on Sunday going to $200 I've got. At 2 bid 2. At 2 bid 2. At 225 now if you like it, Bernie Dock at 225 I've got now. 225. At 225, 225 back at 250 now. At $225 all done and finish at $225. And for the non-Collingwood Carlton people here, it'll make a great dartboard at $225. Would have been fantastic, eh? I'm a Richmond supporter now. 225 now, 250 Father Michael if you like back in at 250. At 250 it's worth more than that. All the Carltons are playing. 275 Bernie if you like. At 250 the bids down there, Father Michael get the same Rox Parish pitch. Fantastic one. At $250 I have. At 250 you're done. At 275. At 3. At 3 at the back. At 3 bid 3. There's 4 bidders now. At 4 bidders. At 4 bidders. That's a fan club for Carlton. At 4 bidders. At $300 now. All done. At Parish. The bids at the back there. 400. 325. 350. At 375. Are you together now? You will be after this. At 375 a bid. At 375 at the back. At $375 you're done. At Parish. At 375. All the money goes to us to bring out speakers, to bring good people like Matt to come and speak here. 375 the bids over there. 400 at the back now if you like. Father Michael 400 if you like. No. At $375 I've got. At 375 a good collection on a Saturday. That'd be fantastic in there. At 375 the bids at the back. Put your hand up. You convert the bid there right there. 400 thank you. At $400 he fell for it. At $400 on bid. At $400 you're done. At Parish at $400. Justin Breen the great mechanic. 425. At 425 that's only one good service for Justice. At 425 if you want car service go to Justin Breen now. At 425 you're done. You have to back there. 425 bid 425 14 if you look out. At 425 you're going. You're done. Yep. 450's back in. At 450 I'm in. At 450 I've got now. At 450 I have. He's a Collingwood supporter too. He's only doing just sticking up here now. 475 now if you like. At 450 I've got the bid there at the back now. 475. 475 hit now. At 475 you better be careful to let your tyres down and take the oil out of the engine. At 475 500. 500 on bid. At 500 bid down the left. At 525 Justin now. Think about it now. At $500 you're sending your kids to say that's cost you 20 grand. There's only $500 there. Still cheap. At $500 you're done. At 525. At 525 got racing in the 2023. Matthew Kennedy coming. Billy Max going wild now. Can you see the bid, Billy? Are you home with me, Billy boy? At 525 we've got the bid's on the left. At 550 now if you like. 525 the bid's there. 550 Justin. At $525. At 525 you done. I know you're a little bit deaf, Justin. It's going to be sold. 550 now. How much do you love your daughter? How much do you love her? At 525, she'll get counselling for years if you don't bid this one. At 525, 550 in the back, he's bid again. At 550, it was already your bid, but it's nice to know you got a bit more money up your sleeve, sir. At 550 on bid, done, out and finished. No more bidding advances. All signed, finished and done. What do you reckon, Matt? Good deal at 550? Yes, it is. Oh, you're going to be good seller. At $550 I've got Walsh's signatures on there. Who are some of the signatures on there? Jack Nichols, Alex Jesselinko, all the old boys. All right, $550 the bad there. Last chance now. Speaking to your lovely wife Teresa, $550 I've got. $575 you in? $575, he hesitated, he's got nothing left in him, another cigar could be yours. At $600 on bid, at $600 done, and finish at 6, going down, finish out, at no more bidding at $600. When the gavel hits the table, or Billy Mac's head, it will be sold. You're done, have finished, going at 6, going at 6, another 25 Justin if you like, 625, that's 625 on bid. At $625 I have. You can buy a good Carlton recruit for $625. At least you could have had 10 years ago. A good year for Carlton is when they won the toss twice. That's how they go. At $625, $650 if you like, sir. he's back in at 650. $650,000 on the back round field we've got now. That's a bed sheet and that goes with the party. At 650 you're done. Finish just in 7 double a bit, make it 7 if you like now. At 650, your daughter loves it. Not putting any pressure on you at all. Everybody's looking at you just. At $650, you're going. He's out. He's nodding his head, but the wrong way. At 650, going. Sold. $650 and a gentleman down the back. Congratulations, sir. Thank you for being. So what about 3 cheers for Billy Mack and Big Matthew getting a bip? Bip. Well, I'd ask you if you can support John. He does a fantastic job and there's a lot of expenses involved, so be as generous as you can. As they say, the best collection is a silent collection, so no coins, notes, and God will reward your generosity. So thank you again. And thank you, Matthew, you did a great job.
Thanks so much, John. And thanks to Matthew and Father Lane for donating that jumper, very generous. That's all for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it and hopefully see you again in a month's time. God bless.